back. Today I have Logan. Do I say your last name? Or do you
That's
care?
fine, yeah. Schoessow.
Schoessow.
There you go.
Logan, I've known for 9 years probably.
Yeah.
Used to live down the street from me and then departed. But Logan has an awesome family. He used to have this awesome dog named Emma, who I love to death. I know he did too.
Yeah.
But I'd see him walking at least once, if not twice a day, with Emma everywhere. And Logan is one of those interesting people that I started finding out interesting things about you and brought me down a rabbit hole that I don't know, hadn't seen it coming.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I have this podcast. I've talking to friends, and I'm like, I want to hear your story, how you got into, I don't know, paranormal. What would you call it? What's your story?
Yeah, I call it, I guess, paranormal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
What's your story, man?
So I guess my dad kind of got me into it because he used to always listen to paranormal stuff on like AM radio stations when I was younger.
Okay.
I guess the big one being Coast to Coast is what he used to always listen to, and he'd always tell us stories about what he listened to, whether it was creatures or biblical stuff.
Get your mic closer to you a little bit. Pull like about that far from you.
There you go. Like creatures or biblical stuff.
Yeah.
So it kind of got me interested in like, well, maybe there's more to the world than, everybody says there is, right? So I just always was interested in paranormal, always watched stuff, and got really interested in Bigfoot because, it's something that's tangible, that is supposed to be real, living out in the woods, that people all over the world have encountered. So it's like, well, super cool. So I'm always listening to shows about Bigfoot, and that was kind of like the main point of interest. I mean, I like UFO stuff and other types of paranormal stuff, but Bigfoot always interested me the most because I always thought it was something, if I ever go out in the woods, maybe I could actually run into it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it started. And I didn't get into like podcasting or listening to podcasts till like 2018 or 19. Like okay. I was like behind the curve. I was just busy. I got 3 kids, and I'd listen to Coast, their little mini, I guess you could call it a podcast, but it was like, audio on demand on their app. Other than that, I didn't start doing it until I was actually listening to Coast one day, and they had a Bigfoot researcher on and saying a lot of wild stuff. And he says, if you don't believe me, come out and join me. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Okay. So I was like, I only live once, and I'm getting older, and if I'm not doing something I enjoy, what's the point in doing stuff? So I contacted this researcher. His name is Todd Standing, and it took him a while to get back to me, and then for whatever it is, he liked me, and he's like, okay, yeah, you can come out on an expedition with me, and then I started that journey. September 2021 is when I first went out with him, and was trying to really dig at the Bigfoot thing, and then trying to see if, honestly, I went out there just to open-minded and to see if he was, fabricating anything or if it was real, right? I didn't really know because I've never done it before. I always hear all these thousands of stories of people telling when they saw a Bigfoot, but I've never seen anything, so I didn't know what to expect.
I haven't seen in the flesh.
Right.
I haven't seen Bigfoot in the flesh either.
Right. So there's tons of stories, but I don't know what's real and what's not. And I feel like the more people that see Bigfoot or UFOs, there's a percent of truth in everything, right?
Yeah.
People are seeing something, so I need to figure out what it was.
Interesting. So you contacted Todd, and he said come at 2, and you was in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he lives in Alberta, but he does his research in British Columbia.
And you've been there twice now, correct? Or more than twice?
I've been there 5 times.
5 times. Okay, twice plus a few more. 5 times. And you went the first time, and I talked to you after I think you went the first time. And I'm like, oh, you're serious? You're actually going. So why not? I was there not too long after, maybe the second time you went, or maybe it was the first time. I was up not too far, within maybe an hour from where you were. We took a road trip. And it is beautiful, and I can see how things would disappear and you never see them in the mountains. So there's various podcasts after you said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to hunt for Bigfoot." I thought it was a joke at first, like, "Where's the camera?" Just like, this is and yeah, sure you are. And I realized you're very serious. And then it took me down. There's a podcast I found called Blurry Creatures, where these guys talk about Bigfoot being the gateway drug into all the paranormal stuff. There's so many stories of a Bigfoot type thing that people see and then disappears and they can't find it, and then it's off the beaten trail. And there's so many different countries and stories of people seeing something like that. So I'm like, who am I to say it's not real and it's not there?
Right.
So I stepped back going, okay, maybe there is. Just because I mean, like the sea for that matter. How much of the sea have we not seen? So there's so much of this world we haven't seen. And so I'm like, could there be something like that? And you've gone all in saying, yeah, I think there is, and we're going to see it, and we're going to capture it, or we're going to try to.
Yep. That's where I'm at right now. I feel like the trace evidence is pretty substantial, and then just my experiences and just listening to tons of people talk about what they saw and what they heard and all the experiences out there. There's definitely something I would call a Bigfoot. I don't know exactly what it is or how it came to be, or if it's some kind of arc off of humanity, or
like what do you think? What do you think it is?
I think, in my opinion, there are people living and just don't want to be part of society, and
they're human.
I don't know how you would. I'd call them some branch of humanity, right?
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know
people,
exactly.
Like giants.
Yeah. Maybe a long time ago, we'd separated in the middle, and there's a lot of researchers out there that Jeff Meldrum goes into a bunch of stuff, and he's probably like the guy that everyone leans on as far as Bigfoot, and because he's got a PhD and he's a professor of, I think, Ohio State University.
In Bigfoot studies?
Kind of. Like he's kind of everyone kind of takes him as the person with a lot of clout. He does a lot of research in foot morphology and like foot morphology or foot tracks.
Oh, foot. Okay.
Yeah. So I think he actually studies anthropology, but he is really big on proving the existence of Bigfoot just based off of tracks. Like, he's an expert in like Bigfoot tracks, right?
Okay.
So he can tell you a lot about a track just by looking at it, and they're supposed to have like a dermal ridge in the middle, which basically means like your hand, how it bends in the middle. Bigfoot, based on the tracks, their foot will bend in the middle.
Okay.
Like a hand.
Would it be like easier to climb things that way?
Traction, I guess.
Okay.
Climbing, I don't really know why. Like I said, if there's like those major differences, it's some kind of arc that we didn't get as far as humanity goes. Maybe we somewhat evolved and they evolved in a different direction, right? I don't know. But it's, I don't think anyone really knows until we can actually say, hey, there's something out there, then we can actually start doing some real research, right?
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I'm pretty open as far as what it could be. Is it more paranormal? I don't know. It's possible. Is it?
You've seen tracks.
I've seen tracks.
Okay, so you've put your hand down next to it, or your foot down next to it, to compare the size and the shape and the way it bends in the middle.
I've seen.
And it's not faked.
No, where I go, it's definitely not.
Okay.
Because I've seen tracks in the ground where the ground is pretty much Rocky Mountain ground, right? And they're about 2 to 3 inches deep, and it would take something 1,200 pounds to make that impression to the ground. Like, I could jump in the air for hours and not make a dent in it, and I'm probably a little over 200 pounds, so
yeah.
Something had to be 10 times the weight to do that, in my opinion. And the track is the one track that comes in my mind the most is this 19-inch track that we found. So it was 19 inches long and 6 inches wide. Yeah.
Okay.
And about 3 inches deep.
Huh.
And it was probably about 3 to 4 months old, like, just based on the track and me being out with Todd. He's pretty good at like doing analysis on tracks and like how old they are based on the substrate and the ground and how the plants look wore. Like he's more of an expert in tracking than I am. I can't really say that I am, but he kind of goes into explanations whenever we find stuff because he's good at that, right? But yeah, it's I've seen more than that. I mean, I've probably seen, I don't know, 20 sets of tracks out there at least. Okay. Every time I go out there, I find new tracks, right? And I've found my own tracks just going out there by my own. So no one's really, like Todd, he's not leading me to a track and saying, there it is, right? I'm just finding it myself.
Like hiking half a mile back into the woods somewhere? And
yeah, like in a square radius of 5 miles, just going everywhere.
Okay.
And there's the place that we go, he has a little base camp, and it's not just tracks. There's what he calls tree breaks, which I think Todd really kind of, as one of the pioneers of the tree breaks, he started noticing them. I don't know if he knows them first.
How high are these tree breaks?
I mean, they could be anywhere from like a little one, 4 feet high, or to 12, 20 feet high in the air. Like,
now, how big of trees are we talking about? I've heard of like snapping, like.
I've seen like little, 2-3 inch trees all the way up to 8-inch, 10-inch diameter. They're big. Like no one could snap those trees. I don't care how big someone is. No human can do that.
Unless they're 1,200 pounds. And they can probably...
Right. Unless they have some core strength that we don't, or some kind of ability that we don't. I don't know. Like a lot of people say they have all these abilities, and I believe it when I see it, right? Mm-hmm. Like I can't say they do or they don't. A lot of people think, Bigfoot have, or, Sasquatch have the ability to have like telepathy and talk, like mind speak, and
have they spoken to you when you've been out in nature?
I haven't okay. Got that. I've
got
a sense of they're around, but that just might be like just an acute thing that everybody has. Like, like you kind of have a sense when something's watching you a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But I've never got that speak of, get out of here, or become kind of weird imagery in my head like that, right? And I know people in other stories have had that.
Okay.
But I've never had that, so I can't say that it's real or not, but I'm open to it, right?
Okay.
I think anything's possible, right? Maybe it's ability we lost in the past, and maybe they still have it, right? Energy is energy, so if we talk through sound and hearing, right? Maybe they just talk a different way. Like I don't know. So it's interesting, but yeah, there's a lot of evidence out in British Columbia that I've seen just firsthand, and then experiences I've had out there of trying to interact with, Sasquatch. I've had direct interactions, in my opinion, with Sasquatch, right?
You set up cameras, created an app that people can, because you want to give everyone the chance to see it themselves, to hear it themselves. I've seen videos that you've shared of tree knocking, tree snapping. Obviously, you haven't seen a video of a Sasquatch yet, because I think I would have seen it if you had. I think it would have made the news. But that's in British Columbia, which should be covered in ice right now.
Yes, it most likely is.
Is your camera offline?
They're still up there, but they're down.
They're down.
Actually,
okay.
One of them went down before it started getting bad, and I don't know what caused that. Just because we're really working on reliability with the infrastructure and how to get things to be like, 95% up and available in the middle of nowhere. And the first year is a learning curve for me, because it's it's taken a lot of patience to try to fine tune a system to do that. And I'm not up there like Todd is. Like he's up there 2 weeks of the year, starting in May all the way to into November, every 2 weeks every month. And I'm maybe out there 2 weeks of the year, so I kind of need an assist, him to do a lot of the work as far as trying to troubleshoot things, and it can get a little complex.
So he hasn't been doing a good job of it, or he's tried to, but he's busy?
He definitely put in a lot of energy trying to get an efficient battery system and solar system out there. But I think for whatever reason, the equipment we chose it just didn't work out. He got some specific batteries that were really supposed to be really great, and a lot of solar panels that were supposed to be really good, and the inverter and stuff, and it would only last like 3 to 4 days before it went down. And from my calculations, it should be stable and last as long as there's at least sunlight for at least 2 days, right?
Okay.
So it's an interesting thing because I'm turning myself into an energy expert trying to figure this out. At the same time, I know you do like videography and past stuff. I'm getting more acquainted with, video and like all the back end of what involves in that, audio, video, and then
Are the microphones directly on the camera? Is that what you're listening from? Or do you have separate microphones hidden around that you can pick up? Because I've seen audio meters and recordings that you posted of sounds.
So the ones I started with, I was trying to get something simplistic, but has all the requirements that I wanted out of it to be able to do what it needed to do. So the ones I started with have built-in mics.
Okay.
The ones that I just bought and configured they have an external mic that I'm running to it.
Okay.
Just so it doesn't have as much ambient white noise in the background from the mechanics of the camera. Got some audio people that were like, well, get rid of that stuff. Like, I don't like that. And I'm like, all right, well, can't really do that without taking the mic out of it. So I upgraded the cameras to a newer model, but it doesn't have an onboard mic.
Same kind of camera, just newer version of the
same thing?
Okay.
Same
so you
camera.
Have to reinvent the wheel. You already know how to work that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to new equipment. I'm working with a few people that I've gone on a podcast with. A guy named Doug Hycheck. He used to, he's pretty much a researcher in my opinion, but he like produced Monster Quest and all those shows. And he's kind of been helping me with trying to find new locations and stuff because he just has more connections than I do.
In the United States or back in Canada, up in Canada?
Both.
Okay.
Just across the North America. I'm planning on keeping the radium system out there when we can get back out there when the snow's melted. But I'm going out in February to Alabama.
Okay.
To put a system there, and then it's possible I'll be going out to Pennsylvania in the next 2 or 3 weeks to put a system up there.
Do you have like a map of where people have said they've spotted them and the location in British Columbia? Mm-hmm. He has a record of seeing a lot, supposedly. Todd does. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, there are other ones around Arkansas. I've heard people say they see them in Arkansas, Alabama. Do you have like a map of like, this seems like a hotbed, let's put a camera up here? Is that kind of what you're going with?
There's a guy that has done that in a sense. I think his name's Scott Tompkins. And he has something called the Bigfoot Project or Bigfoot Mapping Project. Okay. And he has an app. I think it's just like pay one time, $1.99. You can go in the app and do reportings, and it puts as a map of the U.S. and you can, kind of drill into it. But you put your sighting. So I don't know how many are on that thing.
Yeah,
I use that as it's a good source of evidence of how many people say they have sightings. I don't know how accurate it is. Like it's just all people submitting things.
Are they wanting to say they saw it?
Right. Like, and it's a lot of people saying I saw this 50 years ago or I saw this 20 years ago, right? So, so
the Alabama and the Pennsylvania, are those newer sightings?
Yeah, I know the guy in Alabama. We had like a good chat, and he knows a few researchers, and he's invited some people out there to his property, like as far as quote unquote Bigfoot researchers, right? And I guess he's kind of somewhat known in the small circles, but I got introduced to him just because I know Doug, and Doug knows him. And I'm looking for locations, and Doug's looking to prove Bigfoot's real.
Yeah.
So we're kind of trying to work hand in hand together here. But so I don't know him personally. I've talked to him a handful of times, but he's really open to putting our system out there. And it's in Alabama, and it's apparently a pretty hot spot. And they just said that they had like a Class A sighting there a couple days ago.
What's a Class A versus
Like
Class B?
just right in front of a few people seeing a Bigfoot in front of them.
They all saw the same thing. They all reported the same details.
Right.
Okay.
So that, I guess that would technically be like a Class A sighting. So I think that's the hard part, is finding areas where it's frequent activity or habituation sites or high interaction sites. Like the one-off things where people see them in the woods and they never see them again. Those aren't really helpful when we're trying to prove anything. So I've been putting feelers out all over, trying to get people to be open to do that. So a lot of
open to putting a spot up,
open to putting equipment out,
okay,
and like actually doing surveillance and research and data analysis and everything else. I know there's some organizations that do their own thing, right? And not everyone, take that back, but a lot of people like to be kind of close knit. Like they don't want to share their locations. They think you'll ruin it, right?
Yeah.
So it's
spook them, scare them off.
Right. And a lot of people, this is all hearsay, but a lot of people think they avoid technology. They don't.
We haven't seen one on video yet.
Right.
So
right.
Their argument is
possibly
valid.
But we haven't really had video. What is like real video that's tangible for consuming? It's been 30 years. Maybe of people actually being able to do something like that, right? There's a very small amount of time people have actually been to have the capability to even do that, right?
Yeah.
And even then, you'd have to have a power source. Like back in the 80s, let's face it, it wasn't doable.
No.
So it's more doable now, just because of like Starlink and solar and energy efficient things, and technology is like way better. So it's like now it's time to start using technology and interlace it with research. And no one's really, in my opinion, there's not a lot of people doing that, right?
Okay.
There's some people that are maybe doing that, but I haven't come across anyone trying to do what I'm trying to do.
So you can see from your t-shirt, Discovering Bigfoot is the app that you created that people can become members and log on and look at any time, look at the camera, the live feed of the location. Is that the goal? And you'll have hopefully different cameras. You can log in Pennsylvania here, log in Alabama, log in British Columbia, and see if you see anything. Or anyone on can spot something if they say there's a tree knocking that seemed unique. They can flag it. Is that the way that works?
So what I started with is like a minimum viable product in Radium was 2 live feeds, 2 cameras. You log in, once you set up access, you basically can view them whenever you want to.
Okay.
Within that, if you spot something to start out with, I just set up a back-end database. So if you see something at a certain time frame, like the camera has, a time and date stamp on it. So you could look at that and click the button and report it. Goes to a back-end database in which we would look at, right? At the same time, so that's kind of getting people engaged a bit, right? I'm trying to build a collaboration of community. Like the more people looking at something, the more you're going to see. So I started off with, the one site, but the goal is to really expand, and I don't know how many sites is possible, but it'd be great to have 10 or 20 different locations, to be honest with you. And then on the back end of things, I still need human eyes to really verify content, right? Like
the one to actually look online or the videos?
I can automate and pipeline things and really try to pull out pertinent data out of video and audio for people to actually look at, right? But it's not like a computer or whatever. AI can tell me what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like you still need people's eyes to actually look at things and substantiate things. So, imagine 6 different feeds 24/7. Like I need people to help point out things they think they see, because the automation I'm building is only as good as it, it's always going to be fine-tuned and tweaked, but I still need, if I got 10 different hits on this is a sound or this is movement, I still need I'm only one person. I can't look at it, right?
Okay.
I can't. I need like a community of people that are driven to do that. So that's kind of why I built the app, to have a community of people trying to do research, and they don't have to be out in the woods.
Yeah.
Right. So I know it's hard for people to travel or go on vacation, period, right?
Yeah.
Other than dedicate a whole weekend or a whole week to trying to do research out in the woods where you may or may not see anything. So, finding those locations is important, and then putting the proper equipment, and then having the community of people to help do the actual investigation, like having people that actually feel like they're part of it, that are interested in it. That's kind of what my goal was. And then other than that, to prove the existence, right?
Yeah.
And it's a proof of concept, right? They could really, have some weird ability where they won't come around cameras. I don't know. Like, they sense it and they're like, well, I'm not coming around that. Or they have an intent thing where they can know your intent and they're like, well, I've been good out here for 1,000 years. I don't need to be on camera, right?
Yeah.
But that's all saying that they have some supernatural abilities, right?
Do you think they do?
I don't know. Like, people say that that's why they never get caught, but I don't know.
Are they going to teleport out of somewhere and disappear?
Unless there's a lot of people that have seen that, I can't say that's realistic, right? Like, I know there's people that say that they follow their tracks and they go to nowhere.
Yeah.
But I think some of that could probably be proven away, just because if they're really good at hiding, they'll walk backwards in their own tracks and like backtrack. And if they're really good, and if they live out in the wilderness and it's like their living room to them, like they know everything, right? So if you walk backwards in your tracks and jump on a tree and get out of there, like by the time someone gets to your tracks, they won't even know that you walked backwards. So I think there's possibilities of explaining some of that stuff away. The people that say they see Bigfoot around aliens or UFOs, like, I don't know, maybe they do, and maybe aliens are interested in Bigfoot.
Yeah, maybe that's why aliens are here.
Right?
Forget us, they're here for the Bigfoot.
I don't know. There's like 1,000 different variables and possibilities, and no one's really given hard evidence to anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's all just a mystery at this point. So that's what I'm trying to do, is start with, round one of getting some good footage and audio and saying, hey, this is like, here's the whole video for the entire day. Like, this was not faked. This is like the imagery. This is the equipment we use. This is the endpoint. It's all validated. It's all time-stamped. Like, you can't just post a little 10-second clip where you zoom into something and it looks like some kind of pareidolia in the woods for 5 seconds, and you have no backstory. You have nothing, right? So this gives that whole data point of a backstory, location, like high frequency, and then you can build a lot of data points around that as far as like, when are they coming out? If you're having like, when are the sounds being made? Like, what time of year is it?
Have you noticed that from the Canada location?
I have. There's certain times of the day where I feel like, or day and night, I feel like there's more activity. I feel like between 9 and 11 p.m. Mountain Time, there was a lot more activity. And then the middle of the night between, I'd say 3 and 6 a.m. Mountain Time was the most high activity. And I didn't even really focus on during the day.
Because
I had so much footage to go through. And to me, it's like, well, everyone says they're more nocturnal than daytime, so I'm just going to focus more on the evening and nighttime because I don't have time to go parse through all this footage.
So you don't have infrared cameras up then?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, they're IR. I've talked to other researchers that say they don't like the IR, turn it off.
Is it drives them crazy? Plays their
so
mind?
They can see it in their spectrum, their eyes are special, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't prove that, but I'll see if I can, like, figure out a way to have natural white light on the cameras and not IR. So the cameras I have, you can do that as long as there's some kind of moonlight or something, right? But pitch black,
half the month you can have some light on it.
Maybe. I've been playing with it in my lab and running cameras outside, and you know, the area. I've got like a 200-foot cable. I've been pushing cameras out and just going to that dark spot by the dog park.
Yeah.
From where my house is.
You spotted Bigfoot out there yet?
No,
Yeah, okay.
I've seen some
that'd
coyote.
be fun.
I saw a coyote yesterday.
I bet you did. Bobcat, coyote, hogs. But no Bigfoot.
But I'm trying to test like the lighting and like what will work and what won't if you turn the IR off, right?
Okay.
Because even if I found out if I turn the IR off, there's a lot of ghosting on these cameras where people look like ghosts. So I don't know if that's, and if you turn the IR on, it just looks so much better.
Yeah.
Especially at night, you can see so much more detail. So it's like a catch-22.
I mean, cameras are getting better in the low light functionality of them than they were 10 years ago, even better than last year. But it's, I mean, what you pay for.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm trying to find an affordable, like heat camera, like FLIR.
Yeah.
They're so expensive though.
Yeah.
And I want
one. How are
one.
you funding all these?
So a lot of it is my own.
Okay.
Funding. All the architecture and the infrastructure for the first bit and the coding. My background is IT, but a lot of different areas. So I'm kind of like been engaged with a lot of different things. So I just what I don't know, I can catch on quicker, right? So I'd never developed an app before, but I know the ins and out of some programming and stuff, so I could learn it quicker maybe than someone that's never done any IT work, right? So it just took me 6 months to make the app, I guess.
And an app was a better idea than a website? Why do you go app?
I feel like nobody wants a website anymore. Like I don't like going to websites either. Like, and I feel like everyone wants to be able to download an app and use it and click on it and not have to type in a website. And I mean, websites are pretty good for when you're just working on a workstation or a PC or Mac or something, and it's good for some of the, I guess, older generation. Like, you know, they prefer that over, but I think the future really is just app where it's kind of like a wrapper for a website anyway. I mean, it's all it is you're just functionalizing a website and turning it into something different. It has a user interface just like a website. But so that, and I wanted, because all this is not it's not free to me, right? So really the app, I started off at a certain price for subscription just because I'm like, well, this is going to be kind of expensive for me to run all this. So anyone that wants to join, maybe they can help me like cover the cost of it. That's kind of what the subscription was for. I lowered it though, just because feedback, and, you know, I want to make it more available to everyone. So I think right now I have it like $4.99 a month, which I can't even get coffee for that anymore. So hopefully that's affordable to everyone.
Is it still growing? How do people find it?
Yeah, it's still growing. I mean, it's on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. You just find it by typing "Discovering Bigfoot" and download it, and it has some blurbs on the login page about kind of what we're doing, and then you log in, and then if you really want to look at the live feeds, you just sign up for the subscription. That's why I kind of like the phone stuff too, just because the subscriptions are easy. It's all integrated into Apple or Google, and if you want to cancel it, you just go to your subscriptions on your phone and cancel it, right? You know, I don't want to deal with all the complications. Everything is so like plug and play now. Like, that's just easier for people. And if there's no activity and you're like, I'm bored with this, just go cancel it, right? Like, it's easy. So that was my thought on the app and everything. But like there's more functionality to it. I put like a mini little place to post that we're posting videos to in the app.
Like a community board or something?
It's kind of like a microcosm of YouTube, right? It has the videos and they're in order, and you can comment on the videos on the app. And I did make it to where people, if they comment, it actually shows, you know, their email that commented, so I don't get hecklers, right? Because if you're gonna join the app,
have you had hecklers yet?
No, not really.
Good. So people get there are serious. They're wanting to see Bigfoot.
Yeah, and then if you make comments on things, you know, you'll get you'll at least get an email. Even if you make the email and it's a fake one, you're still gonna have to put a lot of effort into doing it, right?
Okay.
So I'm trying to get out of that, just a bunch of people throwing shade at everybody and be real with it. But yeah, there's that, and then like I said, there's the database that I built on the back end for reporting, and right now I've been coding some enhancements. So how do I say this? I'm doing video on demand is what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
So I'm using cloud services to push all of the real-time video to the cloud for storage, but on top of that, I'm pulling out all that storage, and I'm trying to make it to where people could actually view the last 2 weeks of footage for free, right? Like just pull it.
They get on and start looking at themselves.
Right. So you don't have to just look at it live. You could actually look at it yesterday or the last 2 weeks, right? I'm trying to make it affordable because if I do any more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it starts getting really pricey because the video on demand on storage, it's either you pay for storage or you're paying for actual gigabytes of people downloading. And it doesn't make sense for me to pay for, let's just say it grew and there was 5,000 people downloading stuff.
Yeah.
It would cost me $20,000, right?
So is there a cheaper option? Yeah, like a YouTube or something like that where it actually stores. Like
I could do it.
I mean, I like the idea of you being in complete control of it, which is nice. But if you get, assuming it will grow, if you do spot a Bigfoot and see one, that will obviously get you really busy really fast.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think. But that's like, you're right. If there are 5,000 people downloading, and that's a lot of video, and that gets really expensive really fast.
Yeah, so that's why I'm trying to go with like the 2 week. I mean, maybe I could do it for a month. I don't know. It just depends on how many feeds I get.
Okay.
If I get 10 different feeds, it's going to start stacking up. But like right now, if like with 2 feeds, and let's say I did it for a month, it's probably going to cost me just for storage for that much data. I think it's about, I do it in 2 hour chunks. So 2 hour chunks, and they're about 3.5 to 4 gigs because it's 1080p.
Yeah. Okay.
It's high. I try to make it high quality video too, so it's not blurry.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a lot of video. So like I think for the first 3 months or something, I probably had like for each feed it's let's see, it's I don't know, it's over a terabyte, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it just starts adding up. So I can't just say here's unlimited access to like 10 terabytes of data.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy
so I'm
expensive.
trying to do something that's like tangible for me, and then where people can actually review at least the last 2 weeks of footage, right? So
The rest goes into storage somewhere, I'm assuming? Or you
the rest, honestly, I'm open to people saying, hey, I want to look at the footage from 3 months ago. Will you send me this timestamp? Right? And I will send to you a link that's embedded and coded, and we have access to it, and they can just view it. But I'm trying to make it more user-friendly where they can do it themselves without me being in the middleman. So I started with 2 weeks, but I can add some ad hoc stuff in there. But yeah, it's I'm doing that coding right now. So before I came over here, I finished doing some of that. So I have all the functions set up.
This is your hobby now? Is that?
Yeah, basically. When I'm not working, I'm trying to do that. But so I have all that set up. I just need to implement it on the user interface now. So the back end's all working.
Okay.
And I have it. I don't know. I've probably written 20,000 lines of code to do all this stuff. So it's driving me nuts. But
You dream in code now?
I do sometimes. Yeah, so I'll sit there and not be able to go to sleep until I figure out how to do something right, and it drives me nuts. But yeah, that's part of it. And then, I mean, there's other stuff that I have visions for, but it's kind of the big picture is being able to do that and grow and have like a big network of feeds and data.
Has anyone else tried this? Have you talked to anyone else who's thought about doing this and decided not to, or just because no one's ever seen one on video, what's the point of even bothering, because you're not going to capture them on video anyway?
I mean, I think a lot of people go out in the woods and turn their cell phones on, or they'll have like I bought a body cam last one up there, and it's pretty much like a police body cam now. You can just buy them on Amazon now, and they're they'll last 4-6 hours. I mean, there's the GoPros, which I don't know, they're not as efficient, right? But at least what I've heard, I haven't actually bought one, and I'm trying to figure out creative ways to do things. But yeah, there's people out there trying to do it. I just don't think anyone is really spending the time, energy, and money on dedication, right? I think they just want to go out there and get lucky, right? Like,
that's nice too,
right? Like, and it's possible to go out there and turn your camera on and just get lucky and be in the right spot, right location, right day. But most of the time, if something's gonna walk in front of you and you don't have your phone out or a camera out, you're not gonna capture it on video. Even with wildlife, right? I tried to. My kid said, "Dad, there's a coyote outside in the back. Like, you could see it through the backyard gate." And I said, "Oh, really?" I thought he was lying to me at first, and I looked out there, and he was standing there looking at us, and I was like, "Oh, well, let me get my phone out." Well, the time I got my phone out to take a picture of it had already walked down. I got a picture of its tail, right? So, I mean, just picture something that's supposed to be super elusive walking in front of you. You see it for a split second. I mean, you're not gonna. I don't know. It's just really hard to do. So that's why you really need like those high frequency areas, and you need that's really the way to do it. The way Todd did it was, and this is more insanity than anything. So
sounds like he's insane.
He would go out remotely by himself, which most people won't do. They won't go into the woods and the mountains 10 miles out.
Where there's grizzly bear and all kinds of things.
Right, where there's grizzly bears and there's mountain lions, and they won't go sleep out in the woods in a sleeping bag by themselves in the middle of like most people won't go to the woods alone, period, right?
Yeah.
And he will go out there alone for like weeks at a time and just go where he thinks they were, and he'd find all this evidence, and eventually he got there. And so he's got he's got some courage, because I mean, even me, like, sitting out by the campfire at night in the middle of nowhere is a little intimidating. Like,
but
I've done it there. I've done it, but it's intimidating, right? Because you don't know all you see is pitch black around you, right? And you're alone. So if something happens, what are you supposed to do? So it gets to you. You have to get used to it. So I think these big groups of people that go out and try to do like weekend warrior stuff, where they just go out and camp and drink beer by the fire and hope a Bigfoot shows up and shakes their hand, like, it's not going to happen, right?
Probably not.
And that's what most people, I put people in a big category. Not most people, but I think that's what a lot of people do, is they just go out, camp, and they sit by the fire and they talk and hope something happens, right? But, that's, maybe it will, maybe it won't.
I've seen some of the video from your feed where people are sitting by a campfire and they'll hear tree knocking or something, and they'll jump up and start looking around. Mm-hmm. That, I guess I don't know what can be making the tree knocking or the snapping of. Is it enough you're in the middle of nowhere and no one else is around there doing that? It's these guys where I don't know where it is, but I mean, are they far away from any civilization and no one's going to be there unless they're planning to be there?
That's why I like the radium site, just because it's so remote. There's no human pollution, I guess you could say. Yeah. So it's like there's not going to be anyone out in the woods there, and it's probably 15 miles away from really anything. There's a big mine up there, like 15 miles away, where they do explosives and get rocks out, right? But it's still pretty far away, and that's really the only thing that's close to. It's a good 60 miles to the closest gas station. Right?
Okay.
So
when the tree knocking or the snapping, the sounds, it's no one's around there. That's something in nature doing that.
Yeah, it's either something natural that I'm not aware of.
Todd's playing with you.
There's no way. Like,
you're
anyone walking out in the woods without a light on out there is doomed.
Unless they're Todd, and then you make it somehow.
Right. I mean, he at least he probably had some kind of. I mean, you're going to see people walking with a flashlight. You can't even walk 5 feet out there without running into a tree. Like, it's not doable. We do night walks, and it's
with flashlights. The night walks,
no light.
Okay.
And kind of go down old logging trails, so we at least know there's no trees in front of us. But we would go into the trees some, and it's just like, You're just going like this, putting your arms in front of you, walking because you don't know what's going to hit you in the face. Anyway, and Todd's not a rich guy. He doesn't have the resources to pay someone to go out there and do any of that. And whoever would do it would be insane anyway. Like, they could get eaten by a bear.
Have you seen the tree breaks that are up high that no one could get to? Have you seen any of those there that make you go, how'd that happen?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I've probably seen, 200, 300 tree breaks in that area, at least.
That are high, that would take a crane.
High, I'd say about 20% of them are pretty high. They're 10 feet plus, right? So to get that much leverage that tall on a tree that's, that big around, it's
8 inches around or so.
Yeah, and they all have a certain, I call them a pressure break, and where it's not like that snap where it's all, the wood's all chipped off and it's not clean, right? It's more of something that's putting pressure like this and doing it really clean, and it's all, and most of them are angled the same kind of angle. Do you have photos
of these? Any of these?
Yeah.
Send them to me.
I'll send them to you. So there's certain breaks where you can actually, and it's not a lot of them, but you can see where a hand got laid on it, and there's like an impression from a hand.
Like a big hand?
Like
a human hand?
It just looks like a indention from a hand grabbing, but I don't see, like, I haven't figured out, Todd hasn't figured out, like, how are they breaking these big trees, right? It doesn't make, like, it's not feasible. You would need, like, some really heavy machinery to do that. And even if you had that, it would be really hard to make a clean break out of it. So it's, he's gone kind of down the route of they can control kind of energy or some frequency, and maybe it's in that sense where they have some other ability other than just brute force.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I know the rock that got thrown at my camera that I have on video. Okay, I say it's a rock. I don't know if it's like a rock or some other, it's a small something got thrown at it, and it
broke the camera?
It didn't break it, but it flew right by it, right? And this is probably about a week after I put them up.
You can see it flying by?
Yeah, and you see this thing coming by, and I know exactly that location, how far it is. It's 7,500 yards away. And you'd have
7,500 yards away?
75 to 100 yards
200,
away.
Okay.
So you'd have to have like a really, really accurate arm to be able to throw something like that. So it's
through the woods, through the trees, and saw it coming toward the camera?
You see it like clearly, and it makes a sound that hits the tree below the camera, or kind of to the right of the camera, and it makes an amplitude sound in the actual video, which was why I noticed it. And then I looked at the footage, and then you just see this thing coming in at the camera, like throwing at it, right? Like, what is that? I'm going to throw something at it, right? Because
can you see that video too so I can stick it in? Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I've shown it to people, and, to have that kind of accuracy is, it's pretty good. And I tried to do it myself, and I got nowhere near that. Like, I can't even throw that far. So maybe there's something to his theory is of, like, maybe they have some better abilities than we do, but I don't know. It's crazy amount of stuff that I've seen out there and heard, and some of the stories Todd's told me as far as some of the experiences he's been through. They're almost like, I don't know if I can believe that. It's so out there.
You want to believe it, or just...
Todd has never given me any reason that he's lying about any of it. That's my view. There's a lot of people that think his footage is, some of it is faked, right?
You think it is?
I don't and there's nothing against Todd. I think that there's no way he could do it because he doesn't have the capability to do it.
He's not a Hollywood special effects artist.
Well, even that, like, no one, even he's had special effects artists go out with him, and they say there's no way you could do that.
Okay.
And there's no way I can do that. And he's got people reach out to him from different movie people saying, hey, you do great work. Why don't you come work for us? And he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that.
Okay.
So I don't know. I believe Todd. I don't think there's anything that he said is a lie, and I haven't been able to prove any of his footage is faked, even though there's tons of people that are. It's I don't know. It's probably 60-40. Like 40% of people think it's real, and the other 60 don't, just because they look at it and say, "Oh, you faked that," and it's like, did you really look into it? Like, did you really investigate it? Because most people just look at it and say, "No, there's no way." So that's what I started with before I went out with him. I spent like 2 months trying to search the internet of how did he fake this? Like, where are the rebuttal videos? And I can't.
You've seen them. You've seen the rebuttal videos. I mean,
I've seen a few of them, but like they don't have a lot of really good data that really proves that it was faked. Like, it's all circumstantial. And there was a rebuttal like paper someone wrote that's I think a makeup or special effects person, and I looked at that, and they came at it at a weird angle to where they're like, well, if this is a Bigfoot, why does he have this? Like, all these other monkeys have like hooded, like they don't have hooded noses, and anyway, he went like on this weird tangent of, well, he's saying that it's some kind of monkey to begin with. Right. And I was like, I don't know if you need to start in that way. And he said you could do this and that with makeup and do all these things. And I'm like, I've seen Todd in action. He can't
you have too much faith in Todd.
I mean, he's not organized. Like, he's good at what he does, but like, to be that meticulous, you have to be a really organized person. And he's not organized at all. And I give him hell for it all the time. Like, Todd,
because you could use some organization.
Like, come on, man. Like you need a secretary. You need something. Like, you need some help. Like, this is disheveled in some areas though. So
interesting. So you've met other people since then. You talk about the other guy who's helping you find locations for the U.S. and you said part of Canada, another place in Canada as well, or Alabama and Pennsylvania to start off with.
There's a bunch of other locations, and I think,
like Washington State. Are we talking?
Yeah, there's locations in Washington that are possible. I mean, if you look at that Bigfoot mapping project, it's just the United States and Canada, and you just see Bigfoot all over the whole thing, right? So I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's everywhere. And people in Alabama call Bigfoot boogers. They don't even call them Bigfoot. They call them like wood boogers or boogers. Yeah. So every state has their own word for it, right? And Florida has swamp apes, all right? So, and they're supposed to be all over Florida too, right? And you wouldn't think that a Bigfoot would be in Florida, but it's kind of like people. Like, we're all different in the different locations. We all look different, like in other countries, we all have different characteristics. So maybe just different subsets of Bigfoot and tribes. And if they are people, maybe like Native Americans, where it's different tribes of Bigfoot all over. And I don't know, you go down a rabbit hole, but
yeah. I've came to the realization over the last few years that not that everything I've learned or everything I've thought in the past is maybe not what we think it was. I'm like, step back and like, who am I to say there's not a group of people or group of creatures that don't want to be seen and stay away? I'm like, who am I to think? This world's huge. So it's possible. I used to laugh it off. I'm like, oh, maybe someone has something going there. Maybe there's more to it. I'm sure if I saw one, I would be swayed. Right. And like, you can't talk me out of it. So there are people just wanting so badly to believe it and blindly hoping for Bigfoot, maybe. But I've heard podcasts and read stories of people who swear this is what I saw. This is through something over the house, through the dog over their house, through something of like, there's no way anything that wasn't humongous could do that. So I'm like, I don't know. Who am I to I hope for your sake, or for my sake too, that we actually get some footage of it. That would be really awesome. That
would be awesome.
I know you wouldn't be faking it.
That would be the goal.
That would be the goal.
And that's what's good about the collaboration is if somebody sees something on any of these feeds and they point it out and they say, I found something, and we'll name it after them, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the
doesn't matter
John Doe footage of Bigfoot, and they can get famous for it. I don't care. At least I proved it's real.
Yeah, your job.
So that's that's the whole point of the community thing. But it's it's a rabbit hole. Like you start with it, and I don't know. I've done just a lot of research into it, and after you start researching it, you gotta kind of go boots on the ground after a while, and that's what I did. And I don't know.
You went all in.
I know more about the subject, and I know more about the characteristics, and I know more about what I've experienced, but I don't know everything. Like anyone that says they know it all, they're probably just full of it, right? Yeah. So,
what does your wife think?
She thinks it's interesting. She's not like
she's happy you're not a gambler or something else.
Right. She's not into watching like Bigfoot documentaries or anything like that. But I mean, she supports me fully, and she thinks what I'm doing is something worth doing. But it's not like a point of interest for her. Is like
she hasn't gone to the site with you, and
she would. But I mean, it's really remote. And she's more of I wanted to have a bathroom, right? Yeah. Right. So where we go, there is no bathroom really. You go out in the woods, so it's not really her version of having a great time, So
she'd rather be at
but I think she'd probably go out with me for a day or so, know. But it's hard with 3 kids to do all that. I need my kids to get a little older, but she's supportive though. I can't.
What do your kids think?
Oh, I don't.
What do they tell me? What does your dad do? And they're like, he hunts Bigfoot. I'm like, oh, really?
They think it's interesting, but every time I show them something or show them like, hey, look at this, what I found, like they'll look at it for 5 seconds and go, oh, that's cool, and they walk away like, I already know, like that doesn't affect me at all. I don't care. Like I've seen all these cartoons about Bigfoot. They're Bigfoot are real, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. So they just kind of take it for what it is. They don't like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. They're just like, okay, whatever, on to the next thing. I don't care. So it's weird, but I don't know. It's in pop culture now, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, it is. They made a movie recently with who was it? Like
Sasquatch Sunset.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I heard about it.
I saw the trailer. I'm like, huh.
I heard about it, and I didn't watch it when someone said that there's like the leader Sasquatch is more amorous and wants to do things with wild animals in it. And I was like, okay, this movie's like, I don't know. It just it doesn't sound like something I want to watch.
Yeah.
So
I probably wouldn't.
It's an interesting concept to look at the view of the day in the life of a Bigfoot and what they would do.
Yeah.
But they made it more into a comedy than anything.
Not like Harry and the Hendersons or something.
Yeah, it's more of a comedy than like a...
And not like no spoken words. Isn't it just like... I don't know.
That's what I hear. Like maybe it's okay. I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably strange. So what is your hope then for... Your hope is to capture, obviously, if you see video footage of one captured, that would be the best case scenario. I guess that is the main goal.
I mean, really, the hope is to capture that evidence to where it'll be more mainstream scientific of like, oh, well, let's get out in the woods with a bunch of real accredited scientists and go try to get more evidence, right? And try to do like the Jane Goodall kind of a thing where they're out in the woods for 6 months trying to maybe even interact and habituate a bit, right? Because if they're real and they're out there, and this is another rabbit hole, like I don't see how the U.S. government or some of those entities couldn't be able to find them because they have such advanced
have they already found them and just
right? And a lot of people think they have, or a lot of people think that they already do an experiment on them and all that fun stuff, right? Yeah. Which I can't really get hard into just because it's like, yeah, whatever. They say the thing about UFOs and aliens, like maybe, I don't know. But like they should already have the technology to be able to find these people if they're living out in the woods, and they already have the resources, So like I don't really know why they wouldn't release that, other than it might break some people's paradigms of reality a bit, and it might set people off the hinge a bit just because they were taught one way, and the world's really a little bit different than you thought it was, right?
I like that goes for a lot of things though. I think a lot. There's some people's paradigms would really shift. They found out what really was happening or what really is going on.
Right. It's maybe that's the reason. I don't know. People just can't handle change or anything out of their own bubble, right? But the amount of people there are in the U.S. and Canada, we are a really small footprint of really what's out there. And there's nobody really living out in the woods anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
They're all part of society, and they're all part of, suburbia, or they're part of a town. They're not living out remote.
Hermits out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Anymore.
And if there are, maybe they are having interactions.
What about Alaska? There are many spottings in Alaska?
I've heard a lot about Alaska, and I think there are.
Populated yet.
There's a lot of people that have documentaries about some activity of Bigfoot in Alaska. I just don't know anyone out there at all. I love to go to Alaska and just roam around, but I'm sure they are. I mean, it's the right type of environment. There's not enough people there. Like, I don't see why there wouldn't be. But again, there's people that say there's Bigfoot in Texas. So I'm just like, interesting. Like, I don't know where they go, and I don't know what kind of water they drink, because to me, like, everything in Texas is just so like,
it's not clean like
I wouldn't drink most of the water here, like out of a lake
from
or
one spot to another, and just like
even the rivers. It's like by the time it gets here, it's nasty.
I filter my water. It's good.
So I would hope if they live here that they're healthy, but I don't know, like. And I don't know any researchers. Well, I take that back. I know a few researchers in Texas, but I haven't really gone out with them. So, like East Texas, there's supposed to be activity, but Texas isn't like some of these other states where, you can go out into the mountains and do things. Like, everybody owns all the land here, and like for you to have access, you'd have to get some homeowner to let you on their property, and I don't know. I just don't want to deal with a lot of people that all the
people are problems.
It's so much work. It's so much work to find the right location. I'd love to have the area around here, though.
So the locations in Alabama and Pennsylvania, is that private property, or is it public lands that you can?
They're private property, but they're open to it. Let's just say that. I feel like a lot of the people I've heard about in Texas are more like shoot and kill first before I ask questions.
I'll mount them on the wall.
So even if I got on their property and allowed it, like they probably already pissed these things off enough to where they don't want to come around, or they'll, like, I'm not saying everyone in Texas is like that, but I know a lot of people are like, whatever that is in the bushes, I'm going to shoot my gun at it first before I see what it is.
Sounds like Texas. Yeehaw.
So I don't know. I'd love for someone to reach out to me and say, hey, I have this spot and it's on my property and I've got 200 acres of land. And
how would someone reach out to you?
I mean, I have social medias on, I have a page on Facebook and a page on Instagram.
For Discovering Bigfoot?
Yeah, or I haven't really officially made a website. I probably need to, but
I know you don't like them, but some people do like to go to a website and
see. So I do have like an email address that's on the app where it says you can contact me. It's contact at
I'll put a link in the show notes. Yeah.
So I'll put that out there. But if you really want to contact,
so if there's someone who wants to, like, I've seen one on the property here, and I'm afraid to tell anyone because I don't want them to come hunt it down. So you seem like a person who wouldn't go hunt it down to shoot it. You want to shoot it with a camera instead.
Yeah, I mean, if they're, I'm not a killer at heart. So if they're,
you eat meat though, don't you?
I do, and I enjoy.
Let someone else kill it.
I'm just saying, like, if they're more human than animal, it would be really hard for me to kill something just for science.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, maybe this thing has a more evolved soul than I do. I
don't know.
So I'm not gonna go out shooting something just to prove it's real. I don't think
they've been shot out. I mean, people said they shot at them and it's where they've hit them and things like that in the past.
Yeah,
but they can't find the bodies. So
and there's lots of stories of people saying they shot and killed them and buried them, and then they're like, "Well, where are they at?" Oh, I can't tell you that. And it's like, okay,
sure,
whatever.
I believe that.
So maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But unless you're gonna take someone out to the spot where you buried them so they can pick up their bones, like, why do you even tell the story, right? I don't know. It's
You,
just
you mentioned the start. Your dad had like biblical stories. What would that be? A biblical story of like creatures from the deep, or are we talking? How would that as a kid make you want to? Does it make you want to question things, or?
I'm not like a big like I'm not great at Bible study. Let's put it that way.
That's fine.
But I know there's some stories of like, and I've heard of this like offshoot of someone that was more hairy that lived out in the woods and would hunt. I don't know the story or the passage or anything. So I take it for what it is. I could find it, but maybe that's them, right? Like, I don't know. Other than that, I mean, he was more into like stories about angels and stuff as far as biblical stuff.
Do you think they're angels?
I can't say there's not. There's a lot of
No, you think the Bigfoot are?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of people that think they're Anunnaki.
In the Bible, yeah, I've heard that too.
It's hard for me to. I don't know.
Every angel in the Bible, when first thing they say when they see a person was, "Don't be afraid, fear not."
Right.
So it wasn't like this little cherub, angelic, beautiful thing like we painted the pictures. It scared the tar out of everyone when they saw one.
Right.
So I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's Bigfoot, but I would say, don't be afraid if something's 12 feet tall and big and furry. I'm like, yeah, don't be afraid. I'm like, yeah, too late. So there is that.
Right.
So, I don't know.
I mean, anything's possible. There's people that think UFO, like aliens are demons and Bigfoot are
they can blend in with the environment, some kind of technology
to fallen angels, and
yeah.
I mean, you kind of look at it through a lens of what you know. So I just take it for what it is. Like people that are really like Christian, more like I guess not Christian, but more like study the Bible and are more just centric around. My world is the Bible. They'll look at it through that lens of this is what it is, right? And I think that's okay to do. I just think I'm going to look at it through a bigger lens and say, I don't know if that's what it is or not, know? So I'm open to it. I'm open to anything because I just think people are really arrogant and they think they know everything.
Yeah. You don't have your mind made up.
Right. And arrogance is, it's a ruiner of, if you think you know everything, you definitely don't. And I just have an open mind with most stuff, right? I even looked into like flat Earth. I'm like, what are these people saying? Why are they saying the Earth is flat? Like, I don't get it. So I just kind of went down. I'm like, I want you to prove to me that it's flat. Like, what are they saying? Why do they think that way, right? So I just did some research and I said, okay, a lot of this again is conjecture and it's like weird assumptions. So to me, they have some valid points because they say, where are all these pictures of the Earth at? Like we haven't had a picture of the Earth since 1970, and how come all these satellites we don't have all these pictures of the world and the Earth, and how come we don't have all this and this? So a lot of it is valid. I'm like, well, that's good. That's a good point, but I don't know.
So what's going on in Antarctica?
Right.
What's going on there? I'm like, I don't know.
And there's lots of conspiracies out there, and
There's
they're all super interesting. And I really do believe there's in every conspiracy there's a little bit of truth in it, right? So I don't know, like what to believe, what not to believe. All the drones everyone are seeing lately in the sky, and who knows? Like we'll be able to figure out a lot of stuff if we don't destroy ourselves in the next 100 years, right? So with the advance of technology, if we can keep going, and if we can figure out a better way of better energy sources than what we have, because
that's the key.
I think that's going to be super key. And if we can figure out how to make technology work for us and not against us, then we'll go pretty far, I always joke with my wife, I'm like, I want to like just explore the universe. Like I want to be like more of a Star Trek kind of world where everyone's working together to explore. Then everyone's here to get rich and greedy and live a comfortable life. Like, I don't know. That's kind of why I like going out in the woods. I just like to do something new and different and explore. Like, I've never been there. Like, let's do this.
So, moving forward, how do people find you? I guess Discovering Bigfoot, the app, I'll put in the show notes. Hopefully we will see more feeds coming soon, maybe. So that's in the works in the next 2025, hopefully.
Definitely beginning of February.
Oh, okay.
I'll have my app fully developed for the video on demand soon.
Okay.
I'm gonna do some tweaks there, and then I'll have like the placeholders in the app for the new locations. They may not be up.
You've been doing 2 cameras at each location. Is that or that's the goal?
I might do more at some of these.
Where are you finding the cameras? These
I just
eBay, or are we talking about like
they're
manufacturer?
They're closed circuit security cameras, basically.
Okay.
Like so.
And you use a Starlink
And I'm using Starlink and,
stream,
and those types
which is
of cameras.
awesome that we have that option now. Is amazing.
Yeah. I even hit up someone on Reddit the other day because he said he made his Starlink self-sufficient with his solar, and I was like, "How'd you do it?" Send me- I'll pay you a consulting fee if you can tell me how you did it, right?
Yeah.
And he just sent me like the bill of materials and said, "Just open a beer for me when you figure it out." And I was like, "Okay." So I mean, I think there's a lot of options out there. Problem is, it's not one size fits all because there's certain parts of the U.S. where they only get sunlight half the year. So even if I had Starlink and solar, it's not going to be efficient. So now we're going in a direction of back to, consumable gas and gas because they're reliable. So, I just
like during the day, charge up your batteries, turn it off, and at night.
Well, I'm trying
to happen at nighttime, and if it's loud, you scare them off.
Well, the goal is to be self-sufficient in a sense. At least 90 days, we don't have to be around the equipment.
Okay.
So that's my goal, is to not have to go out there. So building an automation around a generator that has to kick on every day for 15 minutes, right? Whether it's gas-powered or actual natural gas, I'm looking into that too.
Okay.
Propane or whatever. And building the timers and the switches to charge the batteries that power the Starlink and the cameras, right? That's the hard part. I thought that was going to be the easy part because I thought we had it all figured out. With everyone talks about solar so much and how great it is, and it's like, okay, I'm beginning to discover we're all just full of it. And
until the battery technology changes, until something new comes along that charges up in a fraction of the time and is different, until that changes, the cars are not going to be the same, battery operated. All these things will totally change once we have a fast charging, long lasting, smaller battery. Mm-hmm. That would be the answer to a lot of your problems. Yeah. It's coming. I don't know how soon though.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think there's some, gas has been around and it's efficient and it's reliable, right?
Yes. So, it can be cloudy and rainy for days on end and still be fine.
Right. So that's
or winter for that matter.
So we're building like a proof of concept, hopefully to put in Pennsylvania, and trying to build stuff maybe in my backyard. Just depends. Like every time I try to build something, it costs a lot of money, right?
Yes, it does.
So like I said, most likely it's going to be some kind of gas or natural gas that's going to, and I've found a whole bunch of cool stuff to where you can build timers and stuff, and even I even tried to do it in radium at the end of the year, but we got a defective generator that didn't work, and it was like so frustrating because to ship things through Canada and go through customs, it took like 45 days just to get the stupid generator in, and then when we got
Pennsylvania will be easier in that case.
Yeah,
in that realm.
So we can set it up better, but I mean, I have 90% of it figured out. It's just that, what are we going to do as far as the energy power source? Is it going to be gas or somehow solar?
Solar's nice. We need a lot of solar in order.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because the panels don't always work right, and like they actually get overheated, like they shut down
because it got too hot.
Too hot
in the sun.
So then they don't work. It's like, wait a second, are you supposed to be powered by the sun? So
now they're covered in ice, so it doesn't really matter.
It's like, well, it's supposed to produce this amount of wattage, and it's only really producing half of that. And if it's really hot, it just shuts down altogether and doesn't do anything. And it's like, okay.
So I have as you know, I have a bus I converted into a motorhome, a big school bus that has a whole roof I could put solar on. But when doing research, it's nice, but maybe it's not there yet. Yeah. But I'd be right there to troubleshoot it and tweak it. But even that, it's like, okay, eventually it'll happen. And solar's getting better. It is getting better. It's still not perfect, as you know, from overheating. Go figure. And yeah, so gas is a nice option, but then you're running the sound of a generator that could scare off something, I would think. It's nice to have a quiet, solar is quiet in that realm. You might be able to hear the camera, maybe. If it's not, it'd be hard to hear that. But I don't know. Your camera, you can move around like security. From
tilt, pan,
Texas,
zoom.
you can pan and tilt. And zoom or just pan and tilt?
All.
Okay.
Yeah, the last one I bought is the zoom ratio is like 200 feet. Zoom.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So if we found a spot where we need to zoom in far away, like, you know.
Like if you get a note from... Do you get notifications right away? Something like, I see something live right now. Does it trigger your phone that you can get online and zoom in on whatever it is?
I am building that.
Okay.
So some of the camera functionality you can have in it, right? Because everyone's trying to do what they call AI, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a Ring camera where it detects motion. The Ring cameras are really good at doorbells, right? They're not good.
That's about it.
They're not good at anything
That's about
else, and they're not good at motion detection either.
And even doorbells are not great. They're
and they're not great quality, and they have weirdness, and they're good at seeing who dropped a package off at your house, and that's it. That's why I wanted this closed circuit cameras, because they're so much better, because they're actually made for surveillance, right?
Yes.
You need it for evidence, right? So I was like, well, I need it, and I need the right protocols to push to like a cloud storage, and I need, high quality, and I need, like, I started off with a built-in mic, so I don't have the two audio device. I want audio and video, right? And I want it to be able to where I can move it remotely, and I want all this functionality in it, and I want to be able to get all the data and not have some security company own it, right? Because it's all going to go to their system. And they'll either keep it or delete it. And I don't want to deal with a middleman when it comes to research. So I've had to build a lot of stuff on my own, but it's better that way, to be honest. And then, to me, it's open source. Eventually, I'm just going to publish this out to a repo of open source, the whole thing, right? This is exactly.
Hope people support you, or is this at this point just a write-off for the sake of mankind trying to find it?
I mean, anyone that wants to do it, honestly. If I do this for a couple years and, it doesn't get a huge following and people just give up on it, I'll just push it out and say, okay, maybe someone will do it better than I did it. And just push it out and say, here's a whole architecture of how you can do this. Here's all the code. Just put in the right input variables for the ones you need to change, and boom, right?
That's cool.
So that's the way things should be, right? Keep everything secret.
No, I agree. People would disagree, though. Some would.
I mean, I get if you're a business and you're trying to be proprietary and intellectual property and stuff, which I guess I could do that if I really wanted to, but, until it gets more subscribers and people really into it, there's just no point in it, right? It's a passion project for me, because I think it's something that can, really change things and impact things and get people working together. But the back end code, it's all just, it's all stuff that's doable. Anyone could do it if they spend a year doing it and really want to.
Have the time and the money.
Right. And it's just, it is what it is. It's fun to me. I enjoy doing it. I like doing this better than my normal job. I'd rather be doing this than that, but you gotta pay the bills.
GoFundMe on your website to, like, in addition to, if someone said, "Here's $10,000, help you out with the cause." I know you would turn it down, but
I've thought about it, like doing a crowdsource thing.
Yeah.
And I've talked to my wife recently about it. Luckily, I've made a few connections, and I know I'm working with a guy now that let's just say he has assets, right?
Okay.
He's got a good amount of assets to himself, and he's actually really interested in Bigfoot, and he's willing to help actually pay for a lot of the equipment. And I never even asked him to. I'm just like,
there might be a lot of people like you out there saying, I don't have time, I don't have the technology to help you, but I want to find this character, this creature, this Bigfoot, and prove that we're not alone here. Mm-hmm. If people want,
all I've been doing really is really small niche of podcast of Bigfoot podcast, right? So I've probably done.
This isn't officially a Bigfoot podcast, but
Well,
I wanted to
well,
talk about.
well, I know,
We'll post
I know.
this around wherever.
As far
I'm
as, like,
go and take it. Go what you want with it.
As far as marketing goes, I've done kind of the main, not all of them, but some of the well-known podcasts. I know there's more out there.
Yeah.
Everybody's, there's a lot of people that do stuff that I don't even know. Maybe they have a lot of listeners, or right. But I've done that, and I push stuff, to Facebook and Instagram and Reddit. I've tried to get some traction on Reddit and try to get people to. I posted some stuff on there and said what I'm doing. Here's some of the stuff, and
are you discovering Bigfoot on Reddit, or what's the? Okay.
So, actually, I think my handle's something different, but the logos for the app, it's some other handle, but it's I've gotten not a lot of people not a lot of people. I've said, does anyone have an active zone, and here's like a dump of data. And I've gotten one person that said something, and then he just ghosted me after that. Yeah. And nobody, it's really hard to find that. And
to find a you out there, another you.
It's hard to find people that want to help, as far as that goes. But and a lot of the researchers, like I said, they're pretty close knit on their stuff. Like they want the glory, right? Like, and they might have a good site, but they want the glory of saying I did it, right?
Yeah. And
that's not really going to produce a lot, in my opinion. Like, you need to be real. You need like a network of people to get this done. You need to make like it's a corporation trying to find Bigfoot. You don't need to be a team of 2 people. You need to be a team of hundreds of people. That's how people get stuff done. That's how people build stuff. You just need to eat your pride and just go with it. So I don't know. That's what I find, though. A lot of people are like that. They just want the recognition, but so far they haven't got there yet.
Well, I hope in your case, I hope we find that would be a paradigm shift for a lot of people who think it's just all a joke. If that's the case, then okay, so maybe your little world is changing a little bit. Everything you thought was real is not, how many things I thought were true or end up being lies. I'm like, okay, that was nice. Okay, all my life I've thought this, and now I realize, oh, wait a second, not so much. So in your case, I thought it was a joke at first, and I went down the rabbit hole going, okay, there are people who actually believe this, with every ounce of their being. Mm-hmm. Okay, who am I to say that they're wrong? I'm not going to walk in their shoes.
Yeah.
I'll cheer you on, though. I would like to. And I've been close to where you were up in Canada. And it's beautiful. I can imagine not seeing something. You see something and it disappear. And it's a middle of nowhere that'd be hard to find. Who knows?
Yeah. It is what it is. You just got to be open-minded and say, what if, right?
Yeah.
What if,
right? What if we're not alone in this thing that's however tall it is, that's big and has a foot that bends funny and could snap trees with, telepathy or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe so. Who am I to think that I know the answer to that? I know enough to know I don't.
Just got to find the answers for yourself, really. Yeah. If you're interested in something, you got to do your own thing. You can't always rely on what other people tell you, right? Because maybe it's not right. History is written by the winners, right?
Or people want to make something up and make us believe it. So I'm written by someone. Sometimes the winners. Sometimes someone would like to play with us and go, we'll just write this down and everyone will believe it. 300 years from now, we'll all believe it because that's what the books say.
Yeah. I mean, there's a negative saying about history. It's a collection of lies that everybody agrees on, right? Right. So, I don't know. It could be.
Who am I? Am I willing to go, wait a second, what I thought maybe is not the truth? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is I hope for your sake that you'll find her for my sake too, that I can actually see this and go, see, he was right all along. Here's the proof.
I'll keep sending you stuff that I find.
I want other people to get on and download the app and look for yourself.
Yeah. So I'm going to be posting some more stuff. I'm still parsing through data that I haven't looked at. So there's a lot of just weird evidence, honestly. I've gotten some weird stuff on just
From the Canada spot.
just Canada.
Just that one. Okay.
Just having that system up, like I'd love to have had it up from like end of May to end of December, like full time. But collectively, it's probably, if you put all those days together, it's probably only up for 60 days, like continuous, right? Okay. So 60 days of data, and I've already got, a whole lot of data points with, interesting evidence, in my opinion. If I could, like these places like Alabama and Pennsylvania, they have power, so I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah. I was going to say,
those are going to be like
power nearby, so you don't have to run the.
Nothing's 100% reliable, right? But if I can get it to 98, 99% on everything, like I'm going to have so much more data. And if these sites are as productive as they say they are, because they were pretty like adamant about these places being pretty like all the time activity all around these places. Like I'm going to capture something, right? So I'm looking forward to it. Like it's exciting to me. Like I want to like be like, what the hell? Like I love looking at video and saying, what the heck is that? Like I get like tingles. Like, what, did I just see something? Like, what is this? And I haven't posted it, but I found a thing to where I'd say about 50 yards away from the camera, you see this limb, and it's probably 8-9 feet in the air. You just see a limb move real slow and get pulled down like this, and it's 10, 11 at night, right? And it just gets pulled all the way down, and you wouldn't even see it unless I had my automation going. Like, that's the only reason I found it.
Because it's so slow, you could speed it up and realize that it's being pulled down?
Yes. And I was looking at it, and I was like, and you see it get pulled down, and if you speed it up, you'll see it in like quicker, right? And then at the end of it, before it hops back up, you see like eye shine right there, right? Yeah. And I can't 100% say it's not. I don't know any animals that would do that at 10 or 11 at night there. I've never seen that. Even, and they put that much weight in it, like concentrated real slow.
You said it was like 8 feet up in the air?
Yeah.
So what kind of animal will reach up 8 feet up in the air?
I mean, you can argue, it's some kind of animal that was putting weight on the limb.
Like right? A bear was climbing up slowly?
All right. But I just know that spot, and the only thing around there is squirrels, and the squirrels don't generally move at night.
So how big of a limb are we talking about?
It's probably at least 4 feet, 5 feet long.
Okay. So like it doesn't have to be something heavy to bend it.
It would have to have a little bit of weight to it. Okay. I'd say it.
Like raccoon could bend it down?
A fat one maybe, right?
Okay.
But I've never seen any raccoons in that location ever. And I mean, I've seen foxes there. I've seen some other animals. There's lots of squirrels around there. But
that's slow is the...
Yeah, and this was like slow and focused, and like I can show you the video.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because you see the eye shine at the end, and it's almost like something was sitting there watching and then slowly let it back up, right? Or it just kind of pops up. So I don't know. It's stuff like that. It's like intriguing because I found it just because of all the automation I'm building around trying to parse all the video. So, I mean, there's unlimited amount of possibility with all that. Like, I'm trying to build, like, all the people that I'm working with, I'm trying to build all that to where they can go use all that automation and go look at it and then do the video on demand and go look at it. So, I think there's something there, but it's stuff like that. Like, and when I was out there last, it was, I don't remember what month it was. I guess it was September.
We're icing up and getting cold.
Yeah. No, it was October. Yeah, I think it was October. But it was middle of the day, so it's hard to tell when something's gonna happen. But like we heard this concentrated kind of hoot sound, like a whoo, like that.
Okay.
But before we did that, we heard a super weird call, and I have this on video too because I captured it, and I tried to enhance it. Like I said, I'm still learning on some of the audio stuff, but so we hear this really weird, like almost like howl call in the distance, and it didn't sound
like a coyote. Are we talking?
It didn't sound like that.
Wolf?
It doesn't sound like that. No one thought it sounded like a wolf howl.
Okay.
You just hear this
Bears don't howl.
really loud howl in the distance, and then literally it was 2-3 minutes. I have it on a timestamp. You just hear it's kind of like all around this base camp we're at, and it's kind of like a circle, and like right in front of you, you hear woo, and then you hear another one sound off and go woo, and then we're just like, what's that? And then you hear behind us woo, and then you hear right here woo, and there's one of them I didn't even hear. It was over here. It was like woo. And I can I capture that on audio.
Were you there at this time?
Yes. And
Did the hair on the back of your neck standing up, or is it?
I mean, it was awesome to me because I was like, okay, so birds don't do that. And it was like literally all around us after that call. And it was really weird. And I have it on, like I said, I have the video of it happening with the howl, with the audio, and I enhanced it and posted. I think I put it on. I don't know if I put it on the app yet, but I put it on like maybe in my socials somewhere.
Okay.
And after that, we're like, well, maybe they want us to go in the woods and try to interact. So we go in the woods after that, and we're just kind of sitting and staring into the woods, like trying to be quiet. You can say meditation, whatever you want to call it, but and Todd's just, we're all spread out, and it's probably 50 yards past base camp into the woods. And Todd starts talking. He says, I see you. Right? And I'm just like,
what? I see you to the critters?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a Bigfoot, I guess. Yeah. And I'm just like, what's going on? And I didn't know whether I should walk over there or not because I didn't want to spook whatever this is. And he has a camera wrapped around his neck where he just hits the button. It's like a Canon, kind of like similar to that stuff.
Yeah.
But he just hit the button and hit record where it would like record really fast. Like he's good at doing that. Like, do it right. So he starts walking, saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And then he's like, "You guys come over here," and then he shows us a video, and it looks like a blurry something behind a limb. I can't tell what it is. And we kind of did the reenactment of, is that just a natural something behind this limb? And we said it's not anything that was there, but you can't, since the limb was in front of, autofocus, it won't focus around it, right?
Past it.
All right. So you just see this limb with this blurry brown circle behind it for about 5 seconds.
How big was the circle? What do you explain? Like something 8 feet tall, or we're talking about like a squirrel?
So it was on top of this hill, so it's hard to tell. It wasn't a squirrel.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to tell because it was further back than the limb, so it's hard to tell like distance. I think it was from Todd. If it was something legitimate, it was like I'd say 30 feet away.
So Todd in that location has had interaction with something for a long time. How long has he been there?
He's been studying, and he had 2 sites, one that's kind of further north.
Have you been to that one?
Yeah, and I've stayed up on that mountain. If you ever watch Survivor Man Bigfoot, Survivor Man has gone out with Todd 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's the mountain he took to Survivor Man. That's where his base camp was, and then he moved it further south. He's had experience at both locations. I think he's probably been there since 2010, somewhere in there.
Okay, so 14 years.
Yeah, and that's where he got like his, believe it or not believe it, like the face footage.
Yes.
Was over this mountain ridge, really close to this base camp. Like I say close, like if you're a bird, it's close, right?
Yeah.
But walking, it's farther. But and it's over this mountain ridge that he calls Strawberry Mountain. Is where he got that footage, right? But it's really hard to get back in there, right? Okay. There's so many down trees everywhere. But
just from loggers or down trees from
just from nature,
nature. Okay.
And it's not kept. So yeah, that's. His base camp is close to that, but it's not at that location per se, right? But yeah, he's had lots of experiences out there, and I know of at least 10 people that have had a sighting just around the base camp of a clear sighting of a Sasquatch, right? So I haven't had that. I've had only what I've had is interactions, and I could have had a sighting, I think, if I turned my head.
The one you were out the camping,
Right.
the tent on the outside by the fire pit, or
Yeah. So if I wasn't overcome with overwhelming like what to do fear a bit, I could have probably had a sighting. But
that's what gets you going back.
Lesson learned. I mean, that's kind of why I started the video thing. I was like, man, if I had videos around there, I would have captured something. And Todd was pretty open to putting videos up, and he said, well, we should just do it. And I said, well, let me think about the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I came up with the whole app and share what he's doing. But it's expanding beyond just Todd stuff. I'm still really active as far as that site goes and what Todd's doing, but it needs to be more than just one site. It needs to be a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So
if it's at more than one location, then plus if you have power would be a nice thing.
Yeah.
It's not iced over half the year.
Yeah, that's true.
Both of those would be nice. Even though it might be iced over in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure but I don't know. Not as bad as up in Canada though.
The place in Pennsylvania has a little snow, but it's not in like the snow belt or whatever you want to call it. So it has snow on the ground now. But
you have photos of the footprints that you've seen? Not on. You can send them to me if you have.
Yeah,
them.
I do. Yeah.
With like measuring how big it is, and it's not. He didn't.
I don't know if I have a frame of reference in my photo, just because I didn't think to do it.
Okay.
Probably should have.
Put $1 next to it, or at least a Canadian dollar. I don't care.
I know exactly where those big prints are, though. They're not going anywhere.
Okay.
Like they're in the ground now.
Okay.
So I can do that later, but we did measure it. It's like.
Are we talking like a size 14? Are we talking like a size 18 or 20?
Like a way big, like 19-inch prints, and I found juvenile prints.
Juvenile prints meaning like 14 inches or something.
They look like about 4. I found like 10 inches all the way to like 15 inches.
And that'd be juvenile?
I mean, you can tell that they just look smaller.
Okay.
And they're usually around, I think, the bigger ones. So maybe they're like teaching them how to do something and they're out hunting. Right?
Do they take food?
They take apples. And that's another mystery on itself, to be honest.
Do you put an apple up high where something else isn't going to get it and they'll take it?
We put so many apples up high and they'll take them sometime. Like they do what they want to do. I don't understand it. Like sometimes they'll take every single one of them. Sometimes they'll just take a few of them. Sometimes they'll move them to another tree altogether and stick it somewhere else. And we stick them up. We'll put like 15 out at a time, and we'll put some lower, and I climbed a tree last time, put it really high, like, I don't know, 12, 13 feet in the air where,
But the moving is interesting. So you've actually seen them move the same apples from one spot to another.
Yes.
How interesting.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that wouldn't be a bear or something. It
wouldn't be a squirrel
or a squirrel, yeah.
Like a squirrel, and it actually planted it in another tree, like stuck it there, like 15 feet in the air.
How interesting.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense. But Todd puts out apples just because they keep well, and he thinks they like them. And
they take them. They probably do.
So that's what he puts out, and he's scared of bears. He doesn't want to here's a bunch of food over here where the bears are going to come and say, hey, this spot always has food, right? So
people wrapped up in burritos, sleeping bags.
So yeah, there's been a lot of they call it gifting. That's what they call it.
When they give you something.
When you give them something, it's like gifting.
Like
them.
marbles or something.
Yeah,
do they take other stuff?
I've tried to put a bunch of stuff out to see if they'd touch it. They don't touch it for me. Todd's ex-girlfriend, she was more of a
ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean she's like really into nature. I'll just put it that way. Like really into earth and. Just kind of, I don't know, modern day hippie, if you want to call it, right? But she would put out a whole bunch of stuff like herbs and marbles and mushrooms. And I don't know if it's like a female thing, but they really would always take her stuff, and it would drive me nuts. Like because
You need to bring your wife up there. That's
yeah,
right.
I don't
She
know.
needs to go just to put the gifts out and see what happens.
It really does seem like when
She's
you have
sweet, so maybe they would.
when you have like feminine energy there, they seem to come out more. So every time I went
yes,
up there,
you need to
and
bring
if
the
she
wife.
was around, I was like, awesome. Like, we'll probably have more activity.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if it's like a scent thing or like just the opposite sex, or they're just pretty. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is, but it seems like when females go out to those expeditions, they are more interested than the males, and I don't know.
Interesting.
It's but Ashley, her name was Ashley, and she had they took like a big marble from her, and like they might have left her something in return. I don't remember.
Do you have cameras like logged in on this, like zoomed in on the spots where you're putting gifts to see what happens?
I didn't do it because Todd didn't want to, because he didn't. He didn't.
I think you need to.
Well,
Send her back to and zoom in on where you're putting the gifts.
he didn't want to just because he doesn't want to. I mean, it's all.
He doesn't
It's
want to
all.
bait 'em.
He doesn't want to lose trust in a sense of like, hey, I'm not. He wants them to do it on their own accord and come around base camp and not say, I'm setting this trap up with food for you, right? He just feels like they feel your intent energy and they won't come around if you do that. So that's
He might be right.
maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. I don't know. But yeah, I know another guy up there that goes up to a place called Nordegg, which is north of there.
Yeah.
And that's where Todd had his documentary. He took out those PhD people, and I think in his documentary they put apples out and did some stuff. But he goes to other spots up there. His name is Craig, and like he said, he'll just put like 30 apples up in the trees around him at night, and he just puts them everywhere. And he'll wake up and they're all gone, not a trace of them. There's no apple cores on the ground. There's nothing. And I'm just like, are you serious? Why? Like, so he's an interesting guy, but like he's had like direct interaction like one time with one, and he's heard him, and he's like really adventurous, and doesn't have any kids, so he can. He plays The Floor is Lava out in the woods at night with his friends. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
Or he can't touch the floor and just climbs on trees, right?
Okay.
But he had a really vivid sighting out there in Nordegg too, and Nordegg's probably like 3-4 hours away from this spot, so it's all pretty remote.
Interesting. Well, that's exciting. You're going back again at some point to maybe or maybe not if you're going to Pennsylvania and
So
Alabama?
I'm gonna have to go back probably end of May to fix the equipment.
Once it melts and
Yeah, I need to make sure it's still working. This is like weather testing. Will it survive kind of thing? And then one of the cameras, like I said, was broken before winter. Even I don't know how it got broken. I have no idea. I wish I had footage of why it broke. But
you have when it broke, when it went offline.
if it was up, I could have got it.
Yeah.
And I could have got some sense, but it just basically I think the lens was cracked and it was all fogged up, and I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
But it's offline. Sorry.
Yeah,
But it's
that one-
offline right now.
That one's off. It's dead. So I need to replace that one. The one that
So when you go back in May, you'll bring a new camera.
yeah, and I'm gonna try to set up some, hopefully a generator and stuff. But and then I'm gonna go back. If the world doesn't blow up on me,
There's always that too.
right? It's always something. But Todd wants us to go out to that location to where he had his actual footage. So he hasn't taken anyone because it's just so backcountry.
Yeah.
Like,
Y'all camp out there if you go back there?
yeah. So he wants to do that this year and go back in that area, but you have to, walk for 20 miles. I don't know how far it is, and it's over trees the whole time, and it's like
You walking every day to get ready for it?
nobody goes back there, like zero, because it's so remote.
Well,
And
you might see something then.
so he wants me to go back there with him with 2 other guys and do that. And I told him, I think it's September. I told him I would, but I don't know if something's going to come up where I can't go or not. But
Yeah.
I plan on doing that, but I also have to go to all these other sites and set up equipment. So I can only be away from my house so long.
Yeah.
Before you know, 3 kids and a wife. You can't. It's just so hard to get away.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Well, it's exciting.
We'll see.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
It's life is an adventure.
Yep, it is, and I don't know. I'm really hoping this produces something, at least tangible.
That's the goal. And when you do see something tangible, even if you don't, come back and we'll figure out where the next steps and what's the new adventure.
Yeah,
that is
sure.
is facing you. But it's
we'll see.
It's entertaining. It's entertaining and unique. You're trying to make the world a different place or a better place. So here's proof. I think I maybe was listening to Todd or someone else saying that he's convinced that they can sense if you're on their side, you're not trying to bring harm to them, they're more likely to show you. And I don't know, I've heard that on other podcasts that maybe by like, I'm just wanting to learn from you. I want to see that you exist. That maybe they can tell, as opposed to the violent ones that if you're there to kill them, they're gonna avoid you. So like, I don't know. Maybe the attitude you have, like, I'm just trying to do it, then maybe you'll see something. I hope so.
Let's put it out there, mate. Hopefully, it's good energy and not bad energy. And
yeah, well,
you never know. They could work off of scent particles like a dog. Like they can smell the energy in the air and know if you're putting out good or bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So if you're camping on the ground, you have this sense, then you turn around. This time you will.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will.
I'm gonna look at you this time.
Yeah,
if it's the last thing I do, I'm gonna do it.
and hopefully something's recording me as I do it. So
just in case,
if something kicks me right in the head and knocks my head off, at least it's on camera, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It makes for a great ending, I suppose. I don't know. No, you're fine. Certainly, Mrs. Logan, he's fine. It's not.
Yeah.
It's all good. Well, best of luck. Thanks for telling your story, or some of it.
Yep.
And excited to see the possible new locations, and that'll be an exciting adventure.
Yeah.
So good luck.
It's going to be fun.
It is. Yeah, send me some of the videos and the footage that you have.
Yeah,
I'll try to
send
put
it
some
to
in, edit them in to have something to look at.
Okay.
Thanks, Logan.